When it comes to the Civil War, the numbers I've heard are 600,000 deaths, the American Civil War. You look at the diaries of why soldiers in the South fought. What did you learn from the motive behind soldiers in the South and soldiers in the North?
I think in more recent years, in fact, they've upped the number to something like 830,000, up from the 600 that we've often cited. So quite horrific. But in terms of what the soldiers are writing, and this is easily verifiable because James McPherson, who was a historian in part of the abolitionists, a cause he was very sympathetic to. I mean, in the 21st century, everybody more or less is, but he wrote a book on this, and the initial title of that book was called "What They Fought For." I mean, just very, very blunt. But I believe the published version was called something like "For Cause and Comrades." Now, maybe I'm wrong about that, but it's something like that. And basically, that's what he did was he went through and read, what letters we still have, diary entries, whatever primary sources he could get to get into the heads of the soldiers fighting for the North and the South. And what he found was that, slavery might be tangentially referred to, but by and large, they both felt like they were fighting for patriotic motives, that the North felt like they were fighting to preserve the Union that had been handed down to them by their ancestors. And the South felt like they were fighting for that Union too, but the Union that had been handed down to their ancestors was a voluntary Union, not a Union where the central government could use brute force to keep recalcitrant states in it. And so you see them both arguing that we're fighting for what is dear to us from the point of view of our history and what's meaningful to us and what's in our blood as Americans. And so that very, very often was what motivated them. And of course, we know that there were riots in the North when it was, when Northerners are being recruited and it was declared that this war was being fought to end slavery. This was not why they thought they were fighting. So it's a more complicated situation than the comic book version makes us think.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the first 18 months of the war, slavery is barely, if ever, mentioned by those advocating the war. And we see it just like Iraq and Afghanistan. They sell the war on your life is in danger. You really got to take a huge risk. And then long after, well, actually, we're fighting for women's rights against the Taliban, and we're actually bringing democracy to Iraq. It's like, when you were selling this thing, you never mentioned either of those. I was like days away from getting my head cut off by an Islamist because I don't love Muhammad. And now it's about democracy. We constantly see this coming through with war propaganda.
Hey, you all, it's fundraising time again at the Libertarian Institute. We try not to do this to you too often, but business is business after all. I got a great group of guys and a gal at the Institute, and I got to pay them. So just go to libertarianinstitute.org/donate to pick your price and help out. We've got some great kickbacks too, books and shirts. Great ones. That's libertarianinstitute.org/donate. And thank you all very much.